What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Real Sports Science Podcast. My name's David, PhD student at Loughborough University.
And I'm Matt, head strength and conditioning coach within rugby. David, what are we doing here?
Yeah, good question, Matt. Well, we started this podcast to share the highs and the lows of our journey as we start careers as sports science practitioners.
That's right, and we are excited for all of you to be side by side with us through all the mud, sweat, and unpaid volunteer placements.
Yeah, Matt, that sounds personal. But hey, it's not just us. We've got some amazing guests that come onto the podcast as well.
We'll be getting their perspective and learning from their experiences to help us grow in our developing careers and in our current roles.
Yeah, that's right. So hey, if that's up your alley or you just want to come and learn alongside us, we'd love to have you come along.
So whether for the first time or not, welcome to the RSF podcast.
Let's go. Welcome back to the Real Sports Science Podcast. Catching Matt using his phone in class. Welcome back for the roundup episode of our first series, Wintering. Can't believe it. First episode done already. But before we get into that, quick catch up with the fellas. How you doing, Matt? How's your week been?
Yeah, decent. It's Christmas time, so I've been eating a bunch of crap and feeling guilty about it.
Oh no, that
And
could
I'm
be
on
a
a
whole
farm.
other series.
I'm looking after a farm as well. Whilst
You're on a
some...
farm.
Yeah, so family friends have gone away. Not my family
Yeah.
friends, but I'm on a farm. I don't have friends this high up. But no, so I'm looking after a farm. They've got 3 dogs, 3 cats, 5 horses, 2 pigs.
So you're literally staying on a farm right now.
Yeah, I'm a stable boy.
Oh,
I was carrying bits of hay, shoveling crap.
so so you up at like 6 a.m. milking the cows
mate.
and stuff.
Trying to milk. Yeah, the person I'm with is just wondering, Matt, stop milking the horses. But isn't this how we get milk?
Come back,
to be
there's
fair,
black eyes. What happened? Well,
to be fair, when those things apparently you're not meant to run, and I didn't know that because I see them charging from like the bottom of the hill, and I'm there like, oh crap, here they come, and I'm running. I get a shout like, don't run, they'll want to run after you more. So I just stood still. I was like there, and these things just come charging, and I'm there like, and then they go, all these
That's
noises. I'm there like
hilarious.
panicking. They're big bloody things. But
how long are you taking care of that for?
5 days. So tomorrow's my last day.
Sound. That's sweet.
Yeah. It's
And
been
what are you doing
tough
for
work.
what are you doing for Christmas?
Oh, not
Oh, we
much.
should mention once this episode comes out, actually, it'll be after Christmas because it'll be next Tuesday. It'll be the 26th. So hopefully everyone had a great Christmas. But Matt, what did you do for Christmas?
No, I'm already manifesting. I already got a Bentley for Christmas. So if you see me around, I'll have a Bentley. I'm just spending time with family.
Yeah.
You know, the standard. Nothing too special. I miss the uni days where obviously it would. Sorry, let me just move myself backwards. There's about 20 animals that I've got to watch out for. So
You gotta have like throw on the reverse lights, beep beep. So you're not. I can't see anything. Is there a dog, a cat?
yeah, it's a dog. They've got
Both.
Yeah. They've got a cat called Dave. They got there. Can you see Roger?
Yeah.
Roger.
Roger
Hello,
and
Roger.
Dave.
You want to say something? No, nothing from Roger.
Nothing.
Sounds like me on the podcast.
Nothing from
Adds
Roger.
nothing.
Are you still in
Yes,
Kent then?
yeah. Still in Kent.
Yeah. Oh, that's nice.
But yeah,
Nice.
fun times. What about you? What
Nice.
have you got planned?
I'm off to Germany tomorrow. So we're recording this. What day is it? Tuesday? Yeah. So I'm off to Germany tomorrow from the 20th to the 29th. Yeah. So family out there. My mom's in Germany as well, visiting from Canada. Left my dad and my brother to fend for themselves back home in Canada. So that'll be fun though, because she'll be there. So we'll spend Christmas together. That'll be good. And then back here for New Year's, which will be fun as well. Yeah. Looking forward to a break though. I don't know. How's your last few weeks been like at work? Is it just manic before Christmas, or is it?
It's always weird that it's manic, isn't it? It's never like you think everyone's like, okay, like let's just sort of coming to the end of the slowing down. No, it's never that. It's let's get flipping everything done, and we need it all done now.
Yeah,
And then
yeah, yeah.
you come back to
You've
work,
had
and it's
all
like
year.
it's trying to mend the pieces that you broke, trying to do it all in one day. So it's like there's no point.
I know. Yeah, it's been nice on campus the last little while, like the last couple of weeks, because everyone starts to leave. So you can actually go to the gym at like 5 p.m. and move
Oh,
around in the gym.
I don't miss that. The equipment at Loughborough is
Oh.
top tier, second to none. But
Yeah.
unless you're an elite athlete, it is a ball ache trying to go to that gym.
Well, especially if you're going at like 5 p.m. Usually I go in the morning when it opens and then it's fine. But if you're trying to go at 5:30 and like there's queues for everything, it's insane. It's an absolute jungle. So,
Yeah.
the like leading up to Christmas, the last couple of weeks, it's been a dream because you can go in at 5 and actually
Yeah.
like work out, which is really nice. So
Nah, that's what you love to
yeah,
see.
yeah, it's nice. Yeah, that's the one good thing about the holidays. But yeah, finished off our first. Oh, was there something else I was gonna say? I forget. Moving on. How many times? Speaking of forgetting, how many times did we forget a question with Jack last week?
Oh, so many. I mean, I think it might have the fact that it was like 9 at night or nearly 10 at night, or the fact
Yeah.
that, to be fair, we just had so many questions. The bloody kid's done so much, so we were just like, wait, hold on. You mentioned 3 different instances there. We've got 10
Yeah.
questions for each of those instances.
Yeah, it was when you said it was when you were like, so I have a question. Says the question. You're like, but actually, that's the second question. I have a question that I'm going to tell you second that I want you to answer first.
I have
That
2
was funny.
questions for you. I'm asking the second one first and the first one
Yeah.
second. But to be fair,
You try
I mean,
to figure that out and get back to us.
we learned a lot from all the different sports. Like, just going back to one thing I mentioned. Are we starting the summary now? Are we starting?
Start the summary. Start the summary. Yeah, let's get into it. Yeah, let's get into it.
I mean, I've got it here. Like the quote I used as the initial thoughts was, "Wintering essentially means both. Wintering is essentially the recovery of a big adventure, such as Ross Edgley, the rehab and general preparation to reach a state where you can ramp up training volume for the next adventure." Or some people use wintering to essentially ramp up training to a point in which they can reach peak performance. This most likely takes place in the winter months before summer sports such as athletics. So essentially, I remember our initial thoughts going from that was you're either ramping up to peak or you're recuperating. I know I threw that word out a lot, recuperating. But then we were wondering, is it the same for each sport? Is it
Yeah.
the same, like as a coach, do you want that to be the same? Is it the same in every sport as a coach, as an athlete? What it has a different practitioner? What are you looking for? And we went for some not pretty normal sports, I'd say. Some pretty rogue ones. There was no football. There was no rugby.
There was football. What are you talking about?
There was no football and no rugby, right? But you know, we got all best or interesting ends of the spectrum, I'd say. In the
It
sense
was
like,
cool because we got
Individual sport.
3 totally different. Yeah.
yeah,
It's totally different side of the spectrum. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
we got individual sport,
Yeah,
athletics, Olympics, right? Olympic athletics. We got a team sport, NFL, you know, American football, and then we got army, which isn't a sport, but it encapsulates all of those sports. So, you know, we got the trifecta of physical exertion. So that was pretty
Yeah.
cool. And
Yeah.
yeah,
And I guess like the army one was like the closest one because like you mentioned Ross Edgley, and I guess wintering has a different. I guess when you're like he is, of more of like an adventurer, you know what I mean. So like the wintering is more just like training in winter, and it's not
Yeah,
really an
yeah.
off season. So I guess that had more similarities, I would say, to our talk with Julian, where it was like. Because he talked about the mental resiliency, you know, that he's like, actually, it's good that we don't change anything in the winter because that's building, you know, the guy's mental resiliency because now he said -10. It doesn't get -10 in the UK. Come on. But maybe it does.
Like
Maybe it does where he is because we don't know where he is. Undisclosed
true.
location.
submarine somewhere.
yeah. So maybe it does get -10, but it's like that was funny. It was like, yeah. So obviously we don't want our soldiers waking up in the morning to go do some like what is it called when they go
A
some
ruck.
mission and it's like -10? They're just like don't feel like it.
Oh, what when they
You know?
get deployed? When they get
Yeah,
deployed somewhere, and then they're like, they're like there, and
yeah,
it's like, guys, it's too cold. We'll wait till it gets summer. You're like,
yeah.
hold
Just
on,
like sipping their warm hot chocolate, just
fella.
waiting for it to heat up.
Yeah, just screams from the outside, and they're like, well, I'm not going out there until it gets a couple of degrees
5 more
warmer.
minutes. 5 more minutes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not ready yet.
So I guess
But,
that
yeah,
so that was interesting to hear like that perspective, because I guess that's the closest that we got to talking to someone like Ross Edgley of like wintering in the aspect of just training in the winter and kind of building that mental resiliency. But I thought from Kate, and also last thing with Julian as well, it was just awesome to learn about the army because I had no idea going into that. I think we chatted about that afterwards of like went in there with like not preconceptions, but kind of just like I thought it was different, or I didn't even know that like civilian jobs like his existed. I thought he was like part of the military, but I didn't realize he's a civilian. So like us, which was cool. Yeah, and did you have anything else on Julian's?
let me scroll down. No, I think it was surprising because I always thought like, as a military, you get this. I've only ever thought my thought process from the military sort of aspect of it was the off season. Is there an off season? Okay, there's two types of training. You get one, training ready for deployment. Two, you've got your off season. That's what I thought going into it, and then I thought Hell Week just assesses where you are. But what was interesting was the fact that he said no, there's no off season. The only thing
Yeah,
changes is the environment. The rest of the training stays the same. We need them to be the best prepared for any time. So I'm reading my notes. They have to be ready for deployment at any time. They get tracked consistently through trial tests, not once a year, but
hmm
every stage of or every cycle of training, they get tested just to see if they're hitting their KPIs or hitting their markers. And then the other thing that was very interesting is like there's no off season where it's not a convenient off season where we're going to
yeah,
work on reducing your sprint time. No, this off season or this time period where you're going to be spent training, you're ready for deployment. You have to, whilst you're being ready for deployment, you have to be ready in every aspect. We're talking strength, we're talking aerobic, anaerobic endurance,
yeah.
we're talking repeated sprint ability, we're talking lower body strength, lower body power, lower body uh, endurance capacity. So
I guess though it's different because they need to be at a level at which allows them to do their job,
mm,
which I wonder what that level is, because I think with sports or especially like performance sports, you need to be the best, or you're striving to be the best in this one specific area. So obviously you can't also be the fastest and the strongest and this and this and
yeah,
that. Whereas I wonder, at least in that stage of the army where it's like new recruits and just coming in, I wonder if like, and maybe it's different the further up you go, obviously, but it's like there's benchmarks that we need to hit, but those benchmarks aren't like at the level of the individual benchmarks that you would see for maybe performance sport.
yeah,
And I guess like again we talk about peaking a lot, but I think and I think sometimes I think in that chat with Julian I got caught in just having that idea of like when do they peak, when is their off season, all this kind of stuff, where it's like they're not peaking, they're
yeah. They
just
just have to be at a
they just need to
certain
be in
milestone.
good shape
Yeah.
all throughout the year, or at most times of the year,
They just have
right?
to make sure they've met the desired targets, and then they're
Yeah.
fine, essentially, as long as
So
they
it's
can
like
meet that same
it's a
target.
different way of it's like a different way of kind of I guess thinking about um like you say, yeah, these KPIs and we need to meet them,
Mm.
but it's not like we're peaking you for, this weekend in July.
Yeah, yeah.
So
And then
that's one thing that I thought of. Yeah, go ahead.
so following from that, we had, I know we're not doing this in chronological order, which may be annoying for some of you, but following on from that, we had like the research paper. So
Yes.
one thing we learned about was the self-efficacy and the fact that it can go up and down during the winter months. And I think my first thought was if it was going to go up or like when it was going to go up or down, sorry. In the sense like is it going to be crappy and then go better, or is it going to
Hmm.
go better and then go down? And it was interesting to see that we saw it go down, and that could have been like adherence to the program could have dropped due to boredom. The same four walls as an athlete, you're used to in season, you're used to always getting quick feedback. What's it called? Like quick response to how well you're doing. You get your time and you get that,
Yeah.
or you're in a different environment. Then next week you're in a different, as a rugby player, you're in different stadiums or different fields. Football players, same concept, and like hockey, same concept, but like athletics, you're sort of in different environments or always in the outdoors. Whereas during this winter month or off season, in fact, you're seeing the same walls and you're doing the same
Yeah.
things. You're not getting that reward system. The only reward you're getting
Hmm.
is if your weights go up. And usually, if you're at that top 1%, you rarely see your weights go up even more.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah. And Kate mentioned that as well, right? She said
mm,
after kind of that, if you're doing 4 3-week blocks in that 12 week kind of off season, and you're in that third week where you're in that third block where now you're trying to work on some really technical things in your jump or in your event, whether it's, I mean, she was a pole vault coach, so pole vaulting, but it's probably similar in a lot of events that are very technical. You're trying to work on your technique and technical aspects, but also you have the buildup of fatigue from the last 6 weeks that are just hammering you. And then so now all of a sudden your performance, or what you would deem as your performance, is going down. At least that's what it might seem like. And I thought it was interesting that paper showed that I actually what was it? Effort. That perceived effort went down as the off season went on. I thought that was interesting. I think one thing we mentioned when we did talk about that paper was it was too bad that they didn't have any kind of measure of performance, at least like in the gym, to see like is perceived effort going down, but what's happening to like the objective scale? Like are they
are they?
lifting actually more weights?
Yeah,
Like, are they getting faster? And so I guess just to kind of tease out is that or like the imbalance between their perceived effort to what they're actually doing, or what their actual output is from like like performance kind of aspect in the gym.
yeah, and I think another big part of that was, as you said, like their perceived effort that was going down. But is it getting easier? Like, are they on the same
Right.
program, which is the same reps and sets, and actually
Yeah.
their effort's gone down because it's getting easier because their body's used to that stimulus, or have they just found loopholes? Do you know? I remember we were
Yeah.
talking about
Yeah.
like little
Yeah.
cheats where you're like, I'm gonna blast it, and then this one I'm gonna, like say you're doing a rep of tempos, that middle tempo, you're like, "Fuck, I know I've got three more. I'll take these next two easy, and then the last two I'll go hell for leather on." So
Yeah.
then it's like,
Yeah.
oh, did I? Was my effort that much? No, probably not. But that's because I know what was
Yeah.
coming. I'm used to this stimulus, and
Or is there self perceived effort going down, just to throw another cog in the wheel, that because they are fatigued, so their performance, or their I guess rating of their performance is going down. Like, say maybe they're lifting a little bit heavier, but it just every session feels so heavy. They feel slow, and so it doesn't really matter what the numbers say. In the moment, they're saying, I'm not trying hard because obviously, like, it's so hard and I can't push myself as much as I think I should. So is that why self perceived effort's going down?
yeah,
I don't know.
and I think like going now on to sort of like the sports difference between Jack and Kate, was that Kate, it seemed like, as you said, she was working on technical more and maybe using the off season, because she rarely has an off season, to sort of recuperate in some things, like let those little niggles die down,
Yeah.
as well as experiencing different nutritional and mental changes. So, and we sort of had a conversation with Jack, and he sort of said the same. When the boys go off in winter,
Mm.
they're still. It's hard because they're obviously Let me just. Sorry, one of the dogs is snoring and it's put me off because I was like, "Can you guys hear that?" Because all I can hear is, and I'm there like, I wonder if they can hear that. Anyways, that's thrown me off. But yeah, so
That's
Kate,
hilarious.
let me get back on my train of thought. So Kate was using this time to recuperate the little time she has, and we sort of spoke to Jack and we were like, what sort of changes do the boys experience when they go off? Because they go off by themselves and sort of they do their off season because they're obviously not with Jack. But
Mm,
one thing we found was that Kate uses it as a chance to recuperate, and it's sort of on her in
mm.
athletics. We found it was a lot on her. Obviously, the coaches would prescribe, but it doesn't. Obviously, it's an individual sport, so there was not that team factor. Whereas the boys were able to get around. He said the lads that do stay in the gym, or the ones that do train together, there's sort of like a collective on how everyone does. If you get me, if you
That's
get where
so
I'm coming from.
interesting because yeah, I do, and I saw it like a different way. I saw it as like or the the difference of like where Kate is with like as an athlete in athletics, you're with your coach during the off season. So like now she's training her athletes in the off season.
Yeah.
Um at High Pack or like in Loughborough. So they're together. Where Jack in the off season, all of his athletes like go home wherever their home is, and they're home for like 6 weeks or whatever, and they're training by themselves there. So it's the difference. Like we chatted with Jack, like how do you stay connected then? I'm sure we'll get onto that in a little bit. But that's totally interesting because you looked at it more from like a team aspect and an individual aspect, where I saw it of like they're training away from their team or like away from their coach versus athletics, where in the off season you're still training with your coach, but it's
Yeah.
an individual event.
Yeah, yeah. So like I guess yeah, and following on from what you said, I guess like she gets 1-to-1 on her. But like I
Mm-hmm.
remember Jack saying the way he uses it is like Team Builder, which is an app that on there all the boys plug in their weights, and when he sets challenges, all the boys have to put in their times, and it brings that competitive level. And then
Mm-hmm.
it's sort of like Kate used that time. Sorry, that was the train of thought. Kate used that time to recuperate and get to a stage where she's peaking, or she's used that time to recuperate. Whereas Jack said he would want those boys, if they needed to recuperate, but also to be at a point where if we ramp up training intensity for preseason, they're able to withstand that training stimulus that's being imposed on them. So not essentially peaking for that time, but being in a place that they're able to go through that preseason and come out fine instead of coming out there
Yeah.
with little niggles or so still
Yeah.
maintaining.
It's just like, yeah, I think one thing that I mean, just talking about it now is it's just how different the sports are and the needs and like the just the intricacies of the sport coming down to like, where are you in the off season? Because I guess for football or the NFL, right? They weren't with their coach for 6 weeks. They trained by themselves and then they came back for preseason before the season started. So yeah, like what you said, Jack needed, or the idea was for them to come back to the team in preseason in a way that they could then train hard with the team and handle it. Whereas like in Kate's situation, they were with them for the whole off season and then the season started. So I guess you can, yeah, it's just totally different. I guess how you would program those two different, I guess, off seasons, whether it's like off season alone and then into preseason with the team, or the whole off season. And like, I guess athletics doesn't really have a preseason, comps just start. Like there's no,
Yeah, it seems like you're, and that's one thing we can dive into now is like we look at say the programming aspect or like not the program aspect, how they dealt with those off season or winter times. So I remember Kate mentioning how she said training in winter can be hard. She experienced mental and nutritional changes, and one thing she said was like she saw herself put on weight during the winter season.
mm-hmm,
And then she said training. She said it could be hard. She said one thing that she does is how to deal with that is she hung up her coat when she'd bring off take on, bloody hell, she'd put on her bloody coat, and then she'd be like, okay, it's time to train. Come home, and she'd hang up a coat, and that was it. That's her. Instantly, her mind switched off from training. She'd use that as a tactic.
She was talking about of like getting through kind of the winter grind.
Yeah.
You that's what you mean, right? And like balancing those two up. Yeah.
And then when we saw in the paper the fact that perceived effort went down, and as well with self-efficacy went down. So how do you combat that? Would that have been a point where you switch up the environment that you go to? So if I'm just speaking to all the individual athletes now that are listening, or any of the coaches that are listening, during those off seasons, make it fun. So I remember like in pre-season when I went to Waikato, and I know I don't talk about me going to New Zealand a lot, but over there, hey, it was a great learning experience. But no, over there, what they did was have mini teams. So they split up the boys into mini teams, and then they'd have challenges before every training session to make it more fun. So in the gym, they had a game of table tennis before, and the winners, and then it all amounts to a prize that you give at the end of the season or during the end of the off season, and that could be something, or changing the sort of stimulus that you give. So if it's you got 8 weeks, it's not just 4 weeks of one training, then a testing week, then another 3 weeks of that same program. You switch up the exercises. Maybe you switch up the environment. Maybe you have like a gym set, or one day out where you go to a CrossFit gym. If you're just training as a rugby player, you're in the same gym. Maybe you go out and do like a ruck run or something. Maybe you speak to Julian. So like that could be a way to combat that sort of self-efficacy or perceived effort. As you said, you bring in an objective measure as well to make sure that it's not, maybe your weights are actually going up. So maybe it's not actually an internal motivational issue. And then, as we saw from Julian, toughen up. So that's all we learned from him.
Toughen up.
Sense.
It's the winter.
It was,
exactly.
They're not going to change it. If you can't deal with it, then you shouldn't be in this sort of environment, anyways. And then Jack said, at the end of the day, these boys are trying to chase that D1, Division 1 uni/college scholarship. So it's sort of that same. You're on your own, or not on your own. Sorry, that's a bad way to put it. But we've given you the resources and the programs. You can use it in your off season. Whatever state you come back to us, we'll still put you through it. But if your body can't take it, then your body can't take it, and that means you won't be able to shine and give yourself an opportunity to make it to D1. So it is sort of like,
right,
even though you're a kid, So it's like it's interesting in those different sports or different people we spoke to, how they dealt with the winter blues or the off-season difficulties.
Yeah. And one thing that I noticed that was a theme, at least through well, actually all three is the communication, because in Julian's case it was how do you get buy-in, and then in Kate and Jack's case it was like how do you keep in touch with athletes and then I guess keep them motivated through that time. And Kate said that this year she's felt like she's done a better job of less being at sessions that she doesn't need to be at, maybe, and spending more time checking in with athletes, seeing how it's going, what's working, what's not working, where they're at, where are they at mentally, And then Jack said the same thing this year. He's tried more to go into those like quick meetings that he has with athletes that are who knows where, and trying to ask more, just not, have you done it? Okay, awesome, videos. All right, see you later, bye. But being more like, what's going well, what's not going well, like how are you finding this, what's going on, outside of training. And he said so that when they come back to him in the preseason, he has an idea of like, okay, this person was struggling with this, or this person had a good off season, or this person, didn't have had this going on or whatever. And I guess that kind of comes back to like building culture. And we've talked about that. It's been like a pretty running theme through the podcast over the last year, hasn't it? Like we had an episode where we talked about building culture, but then kind of every few athletes or coaches or just guests that we have on, it kind of comes up. I know Patty talked about it when we talked to Ellie. We talked to her about as well, like culture and what sort of culture like breeds kind of buy-in from players to sports scientists or coaches. So I thought that was interesting to kind of see that theme kind of being woven through all three of the guests that we had on over the last few weeks.
Yeah, and I guess in a more stricter approach. I don't know, but in what the theme I thought as well was you will experience changes over these winter months or this off-season training. You will experience changes that won't be nice. But what I found is the people that we spoke to, which I know is not 50 or something, it's not a great sample size if you're doing a case study, but the people that we spoke to who work with about 50 people, so in fact we spoke to like maybe 300 people, they said
Because
that
50 times 3 equals 300.
well, 50 times 3 times another 3 times another 12 equals around 300. So like the people we spoke to, I guess my takeaway from it was you will experience changes. It won't be the easiest time. There's a reason why it's called winter training, or it's not, winter, and then it comes with connotations of grimy, snowy, cold, wet. It's something that every athlete will experience, and I feel like the way they reflected on it was it's not going to be the easiest time, but it's going to be a time that you got to get through. And we look at the people we spoke to; they're the ones that say, hey, how many winter seasons or off seasons she went through, and she was an Olympic athlete. Julian, he's training the hardest of the hard. They got to get through it. No, and if you're not getting through it, then you're not in there. So you're gonna have to get through it. So hard graft is the key words that stuck out to me when speaking to them. It's like either you get through or you don't. Obviously, there's considerations to be made for different things, but it's hard graft at the end of the day. Make sure it's planned hard graft, though, not chaotic hard graft, because even the army, where it is chaotic, there's still planning and considerations that are being taken into
account.
Things taken into consideration. There you go. Obviously, that sentence wasn't planned, but yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, for me, I think the biggest takeaway, I think the thing that I keep coming back to is just like, how do you support, at least in the roles where I'm with athletes, is like, how do I support them as a sports scientist? And for me, it helped me be aware of some of the changes that might be going on, and that there are changes that aren't always good, and it's hard. And how do I just relate to athletes that are going kind of through that time? I think for me it's helpful, because there's nothing worse as like a sports scientist. You might see athletes once in a while, and there's some athletes that I work with quite regularly, so I know them, but there's some that I don't work with that well, or not that well. I work with them well, but I don't see them very often. Like there's nothing worse than just like saying something and just sticking your foot in your mouth, because you're like, oh, like come in with super lots of energy. You're like, oh yeah, like have you had like great sessions or whatever? And they're just like, shut up. I feel awful.
Yeah.
My running has felt terrible. I'm running slow. And the last thing I want to think about is having to compete in 4 weeks, because I feel miles off of where I think I should be,
That's when you have to double down. Well, look who's not going to make it then. Obviously not.
Yeah. Well, surprise, you're racing this weekend. Yeah, it's just like, I guess, just being aware of the things that might be going on, and how I can best support them. Yeah. Anything else from that? I've had a great time on this series, and we chatted briefly about it before jumping on. You asked me like how we thought the series went, and if it's a good way to go forward. And I said to you like 100%. Like what did you think?
Yeah, no, I mean, for personal reflection, as you'll see throughout the podcast, I started the first episode like this and speaking like this, and then I finally got the hold of the mic, and then the mic was in my face, so I was holding it here, and then I've managed to get tape around the mic so the blue light's not in my face. The camera was up here, and now I've finished strong, where I'm holding the mic correctly, and the camera's sort of got a better view. Legs still up,
so
chilling,
so we can see more than just your traps in your head.
Yeah, I mean,
and then oceans of space to the top of the camera.
Yeah. So there's been a good personal reflection, but that's it from me. In terms of our next series, I don't know. Do we give a little teaser?
I don't know. It's multifactorial.
I was going to say, what do you get when you mix a human and a horse? A hybrid animal, a centaur. Anyways, that's the clue I've got. But
That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good. That's good.
What do
You know what
get?
I thought? Actually, that's funny. If you haven't got it from that, then you're just not going to get it. So you just got to listen. And if you
Yeah.
did get it, you're probably fired up. So you're going to want to listen anyways in the new year. Because it's the season of sharing and giving, what if we do a little CNP giveaway where,
Bean?
I don't know, we have to pick the dates, maybe from when this podcast comes out, right? So the 26th all the way till our next podcast, which right now is going to be the 16th of January. Whoever shares, whether it's a reel, whether it's a story, whether it's like links to our Spotify or YouTube the most, wins a prize, wins
That
a little
sounds
CMP
unreal.
bundle. So
Hell yeah.
you share, we give.
Can I enter?
Yeah, that's why I said we'll be the only two entering.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sweet. I just want to double check because I love
Yeah.
CMP stuff.
Yeah. So from the 26th of December to the 16th of January, dates might change depending. Yeah. For one share, you get one entry, and whoever shares the podcast the most.
We'll record
We'll-
we'll record the names of the spin and then post the winner.
Yeah, exactly. And if there's a one all-out winner, then exactly you win. So get to sharing for more entries. Really.
Awesome.
Yeah. But we really appreciate you guys listening. Hopefully you enjoyed this podcast and definitely the five previous podcasts to this of our first series, Wintering. And we're going to do more of these, hopefully just kind of bringing together athletes, coaches, sports scientists, sport practitioners, researchers, and just chatting about kind of in 5 or 6 week blocks of one topic, which I think I liked it because it allowed my brain to be in like one area for 5 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I could really like, oh, well, that kind of reminded me of what this person said last week or whatever. So that was really cool. But yeah, Matt, do you have anything else?
Merry Christmas. I hope you guys had an amazing Christmas day. I hope you guys got a bunch of good products. RSS podcast is free, so you don't have to pay or send it to anyone. You can send the link over for free if you want a Christmas gift to listen to us. Merry Christmas. I hope you guys have a great day. And wishing you all a happy new year.
Absolutely. Yeah. Merry Christmas. Happy New Year from us at the RSS podcast. Matt, take us out.
This has been the RSS podcast. We're out.